Issues like inflation and corruption continue to occupy mind space of the electorate and have already taken a toll on the Congress party in the recent state assembly elections, something that even the Prime Minister admitted in his press conference today. With Sunil Prabhu, Shweta Rajpal-Kohli, NDTV.
Well, we have a host of people joining us on that debate tonight, including representatives of the Congress and the BJP. But first, let me take this across to Kiran Bedi and Pawan Verma joining us at this point. Kiran Bedi, do you see this as a missed opportunity for the Prime Minister, an opportunity when he could have robustly answered questions on corruption, particularly corruption allegations on his own office when it came to coal block allocations?
Ankita, I think the country has been missing a leader, a communicator for last 9 years. We've not had our chief of the executive, chief of this country, communicating with his people at all last 9 years, unfortunately. If you see Obama, in his first 4 years, communicated as a press conference for 79 times. In Clinton's, even more than 140 times. They've been communicating with people. Our Prime Minister has been actually missing in communication.
Well, today he did communicate, Kiran Bedi, but do you believe that he communicated effectively?
It's not a missed opportunity. It's a missed tenure. Sorry?
He did communicate today, but did he communicate what needed to be communicated?
No, he didn't. He expressed nothing but helplessness and dependency. He spoke like a bureaucrat who sat for no exam but only maintained the government for 9 years. He did not communicate. In fact, there's one question which I wish the media had asked him, that, sir, don't you read newspapers? And when you read newspapers, when there's evidence of corruption hitting your eye, what do? I think he said he wanted auction. On the contrary, he expressed helplessness. He let the country know he wanted auction. It didn't happen. He wanted open transparency system in 2G, it didn't happen. Then what is a leader for? So in a way, he's communicated how helpless he's been for last 9 years in preventing corruption.
All right, we're also being joined at this point by Dr. Abhishek Singhvi, Rajya Sabha MP and spokesperson of the Congress, Nirmala Sitharaman, national spokesperson of the BJP, Pawan Verma, advisor culture and information to the Bihar Chief Minister, Nitish Kumar, Kiran Bedi already with us. Senior journalist Siddharth Varadarajan and Dilip Padgaonkar also with us at this point. But let me take this right to the Congress. Can the Prime Minister, Dr. Singhvi, say that he is not responsible for the corruption of his government, that the buck did not stop with him?
I've just heard the last part, and I'm quite amazed and aghast that you reduce a 10-year tenure of a government and of a Prime Minister to one press conference. I'm even more aghast at the very, very contemptuous and strong words used about a Prime Minister. Of course, this is a democracy. Everybody is entitled to his own words, his own thought. But to suggest that, number one, 9 of the best economic years ever in the political or economic life of the country, ignore it, because the press conference, his style is not like Mr. Modi's, the style which some people like, the style of rhetoric, the style of denunciation, the style of taunting, the style of divisiveness, inciting anger, but no specifics. No specifics. Just try to attack people. Second, reduce it to a press conference. Ignore the fact that there are some 10 fantastic, unprecedented programs of social welfare under this government, from Manrega to RTI to food security and so on and so forth. Reduce it to a press conference. How he speaks in a press conference. Ignore the fact that you have had the most stringent action taken against corruption, and I have no hesitation in saying that none of us can actually prevent it. We can try to minimize it, we can try to have safeguards in place, but if you are with me and you are corrupt, I can't actually prevent it. What shows my will is what I do after I find that you are corrupt. And you have ministers leaving, you have Ashok Chavan resigning before even an FIR, ignore all that. Also ignore that the person whom you like so much and who speaks with such flamboyance, Mr. Modi, continues Mr. Babulal Bukharia in his cabinet after a criminal conviction. Refuses sanction to Mr. Purushottam Solanki, Fisheries Minister's prosecution. Continues Mr. George Fernandes, except for a small demitting of office, right through the Tehelka Commission.
Okay, I can
Ignore
see,
all that.
I can see
But
both.
yes, because this Prime Minister is soft, this Prime Minister is mild, and one last thing, because this Prime Minister says what all of us say in Congress and believe a lot of other people believe, that yes, Mr. Modi will be disastrous for the country. Therefore, attack the Prime Minister for using unparliamentary or unsuitable language, but don't attack Mr. Advani, don't attack Mr. Jaitley, don't attack Mr. Modi for all the great grand
Nirmala
words he uses
Sitharaman
in
and
Parliament and
Kiran Bedi
outside
wanting to
Parliament
make
about Prime
rebuttals
Minister, about night watchman, about what a poor person communicator he is, etc., etc.
Okay,
What
Nirmala
kind of,
Sitharaman, has
I mean,
this,
what
has
kind
this,
of,
in his,
comparisons
has
is this?
Has the Prime Minister's statements today really been reduced to, as Dr. Singhvi argues, just a mere press conference? Are we ignoring all the issues that were highlighted by him and bringing this making this a more narrow debate than just about corruption?
Well,
Or his
first
target
of all,
on
let
Narendra
me-
Modi for that matter?
Shall I?
Yes, please.
See, the choice of holding a press conference today was entirely the Prime Minister's. This is only the third, and we have not asked him to reduce it all to a press conference. Dr. Abhishek Manu Singhvi, please be reminded the fact that it was Prime Minister's own choice to address through the media the nation and tell us about his tenure. One. And second, to go about thinking that, people have asked questions which are so, stressful for the Prime Minister is not true. I would have thought the media has been very, very, responsible and respectful of the Prime Minister today. Nobody has stopped or nobody has provoked the Prime Minister to say things which he wished to say. We all wanted to hear him. We've heard him today. And what I am disappointed by is very clearly he has not taken the responsibility for corruption. You may say anything you want, Dr. Singhvi, about what is happening in Modi's, what is happening here, what is happening there. The measure for being prompt with action is expressed by the Prime Minister himself. If he has used the measure that because he won in 2009, he has no business to do anything more on corruption, let's use the same measure for everybody then. That's not the way to go about it. And as you're rightly asking questions about the ministers in Mr. Modi's cabinet, I wish only that you do a bit more of homework and then come back to ask the questions. Whereas what we have done is to constructively engage. The leader of the opposition is provided with solid documentation saying please do take action, and he is written to the Prime Minister. So we are not reducing the whole thing, his 10 years, performance or non-performance, to one press conference. After all, it was his choice.
Okay,
he could have used this opportunity to say a lot more to the people. On the contrary,
let's bring more voices into this. Siddharth Varadarajan, the BJP questioning whether it's adequate to say.
Yes. Well, okay.
The BJP questioning whether it's adequate to say that corruption allegations date back to UPA 1. The people voted us back. Does corruption get sanctified by electoral victories?
No, I thought that was the most astonishing and disappointing part of the Prime Minister's whole argument, because he himself and others in the Congress and observers in general have rejected this kind of argument when Lalu Prasad made it for the fodder scam and his victory post the fodder scam charge sheet, or Narendra Modi made that argument as to how winning the 2002 elections in some way absolved him from any responsibility for what happened during the riots there. So, this is no argument at all, and in any case, it's not even factual, right? Because the scams may well have been executed during UPA 1, but the details about the scams, the CAG report, the full, the dissemination of all the information on coal allocation, spectrum allocation, happens in the second term. So to say that people knew exactly what happened and they gave us a second term and this proves how this is not a big deal, for the Prime Minister of this country to make that kind of argument, really, I think was very, very unfortunate. And I think it's something that he's going to come to regret. It's something that the Congress party is going to come to regret, because it conveys a message that you're not serious about corruption. It conveys a message that you haven't learned anything from the agitated state of the public in this country, the rise of the Aam Aadmi Party, the rise of the Lokpal agitation. None of that has had any impact. How else can one explain Dr. Manmohan Singh making this kind of an argument.
Okay, Kiran Bedi, very quickly before I take this back to Dr. Singhvi.
Sorry, Ankita, there are some other panelists
Mr. Singhvi,
here.
if you want
Pawan
me to
Verma, I'll come to you
comment-
in just a moment. Thank you very much for being patient.
Mr. Singhvi said corruption is not preventable. In many cases which the Prime Minister referred, it was preventable if this was intervened at the right time. He said he wanted an auction, a proper transparent auction. There were many stages through which he could have effectively intervened. Did he? He didn't explain us. He talked about the auctions for the Colgate. He wanted a Colgate auction. I think the information is very much in the open society. Did he effectively implement his own direction? Did he? No. Commonwealth Games was open corruption. It was coming out openly from October 2010, which started the India Against Corruption movement. Did he intervene instead of only releasing money so that the games are held? I think effective leadership intervention at the right time was preventable, which I think the Prime Minister said it couldn't work. He conceded today that he could not prevent it because somebody didn't listen to him. And what happened in the cabinet, he didn't even mention. He said that's secret. I think our Prime Minister today has revealed
Fair
that
point.
he was
Let's get Pawan Verma in on this as well.
Manmohan
Manmohan Singh today saying that he did his best to ensure that coal and spectrum were transparently allocated. As Prime Minister and head of the government, can he really say that he couldn't follow through?
Well, Ankita, thank you for remembering me and others who haven't spoken. But I want to make 2 or 3 quick points because you have many panelists. First of all, I agree that you can't judge a Prime Minister on the quality of one press conference. But to the extent that there was a press conference, I think people are entitled to draw some inferences. In my view, Ankita, it was too little too late. After 3 years of prolonged silence, where he held no press conference, and for that to happen in an argumentative, vibrant, contested democracy like ours is itself inexplicable. But he did make a press conference, and in that press conference there were 3 ghosts, not one. Bank was ghosts in 3 forms. There was governance, the issue of governance, there was the issue of price rise, and there was corruption. I think the Prime Minister did not want to have an out-and-out confrontation on any of these issues, and therefore he chose the path of least resistance. On the question of governance, he provided printed material and did not really go beyond that. On the question of price rise, he took the alibi of external factors. And on the question of corruption, as Siddharth said, I was also a little surprised at the defense that whatever happened in UPA won, and because we got elected, the rest does not matter. It's not characteristic of him to really make the comment. My real point of view is that this was a farewell speech. A few months before the elections, where a Prime Minister was saying he's not going to be the candidate for PM, and here is someone who is going to be the best person to succeed him. If it was to be a farewell speech, and if this is the way he wished to conduct the press conference, I think it would have been far more dignified to make a televised speech which was saying goodbye.
Fair point. Dr. Singh, we respond to that. Has the Prime Minister in effect made re-election a little harder for the Congress or the UPA with this press interaction today?
You're
2 or
asking
3
me?
things. First of all, let me make it clear. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Let me make it clear that the Congress party, and no reading or misreading of the Prime Minister's address today can suggest that he was even remotely saying that because we won the 2009 elections, that's a condonation or a endorsement of any form of corruption. All that he was saying was that yes, we've had problems on corruption, and he candidly admitted both on inflation and on corruption, but we have taken stern action wherever we have found it, and the public perception is not at all as bad as the BJP says, which is why we have won the 2009 elections. And that is the simple reading and explanation of what he said. And I am here to officially tell you very clearly that there is no question of suggesting that an illegality or something wrong is condoned or excused or regularized by an election. That's been the Congress stand consistently. Secondly, I think you have to rewind back to February or March of 2009 when the Congress for the first time specifically said that Dr. Manmohan Singh will be our prime ministerial candidate. That's what we do 3 or 4 months before the elections. And it is the same thing happening now as far as Dr. Manmohan Singh, of course, said it a little earlier in January, that he has been very candid, very humble. He has said so earlier also that he did not have the mandate and he was not the first choice for prime ministership. And he has said it now clearly. I think that speaks of the humility of the person and the straightforwardness of the person.